on the front of the grid. Mixing fathers and sons there. Can happen.
Pound in the swear jar, nice and early. He is alongside the Dutch driver, Macau Grand Prix winner of last year, Richard Verschoor, and it's time to highlight Alex Peroni and Teo Pourchaire. Indeed, the whole 30 on the grid. With Nannini, first point yesterday, that turns into reverse grid pole today. Verschoor alongside him, Peroni going for another podium this year from third place. Teo Pourchaire is a two-time race winner. He goes from fourth. Oscar Piastri looking to hit back in the championship after losing ground yesterday to Logan Sargent. Then we have Beckman, Novalak and Logan Sargent there in 8th position, our championship leader. Liam Lawson is 9th. Jake Hughes, our race winner yesterday, our 8th different race winner of the year, starting from 10th thanks to that reverse grid. Then comes Smolja, and Smolja is alongside Zentelli. Then Fittipaldi, Doohan, Fernandez and Pulcini. In addition to the grid this week in for Ben Barnicoat, then we have Max Futrell and Dennis Hauger, Cameron Dass and Ollie Caldwell. Dunner is next to Stanek. Schumacher is next to his teammate Igor Fraga. And then in 25th position, Kalen Williams, next to his teammate Mal Vestiti. Sophia Flörsch is 27th. And then we have Alessio Deleda. Retirements yesterday. Vesti towards the end in 29th, and Ben Biscow in 30th place started a trip to the gravel in turn 5 and wasn't able to get out there. He starts 30th on the grid. This is the driver 9th in the championship. Alex Peroni going for a third podium of the season today.
Crispy cool out there. Another set of hard Pirelli tyres available to all, including the young Frenchman, Teo Pourchaire. Had a middle-of-the-road race weekend by his own standards, but lines up 4th today to try to potentially grab a podium finish in his ART. And 32 degrees track temperature, much cooler than yesterday. Air temp up at 26. There's going to be a bit more warming up to do this morning.
Be interesting to see how the top 3 from yesterday play this one. Jake Hughes was very pleased with his start. That enabled him to fight for the win. He said the lights weren't on for very long, so he missed that. He then felt quite comfortable and knew Logan would be thinking about the championship. Logan Sargent backed that up, the driver who finished in 3rd yesterday. He said he was always going to keep it clean. The points were too big to throw away. And to be honest, he knew his tyres were struggling. So Logan Sargent in championship management mode. As we say, Didier, who's in charge of the technical side there on the left, and Bruno Michel, the CEO of the championship, was on the right. We're building up to the first race of the day. It should be incredibly competitive thanks to this reverse grid. And Oscar Piastri, is this a day, Alex Brundle, where he needs to take points out of Logan Sargent?
Lost a bit of ground versus Logan Sargent yesterday. Had a bit of a messy race. Well, Sargent out at the front, and indeed he does need to take a few points back in the championship battle. A battle that's been raging all season long between the Prema drivers. 7 races to go, including this one. So we're drawing into the, well, we're certainly past the middle of this championship fight now. And
checking in with the Genza team there, they have their driver on pole position. Sorry, cut across your point that you were going to make about Oscar Piastri there, Alex.
Well, we're drawing into the phase. He's always saying he is not too worried about the championship. He's not thinking about the championship. But as we move into the final 2 or 3 race weekends of this Formula 3 series, you must think that he's starting to count points here just a little bit versus his rivals.
Absolutely. So at the front of the standings, Logan Sargent, 125 points. Oscar Piastri hasn't won since the first race of the year back in Austria, 113 points. Liam Lawson, 2-time race winner this year, now up to 3rd in the standings, leapfrogging David Beckman on 95 points and 48 points available for a Formula 3 weekend. So he's by no means out of contention. He's been consistently running at the front. It's a trade-off for those who performed well in race 1 about how much they're going to risk in this second race of the weekend. We are underway for the formation lap as the 30 in the field get the tyres into the temperature window, work the brakes as well, and track temperature now at 32 degrees as they make their way around this 2.8 mile, 4.6 kilometre circuit, and a bit of pressure on the Nini's shoulders. Not a situation he's been in on a Grand Prix weekend before, at the head of the field.
His best finish in Formula 3 yesterday and converted into his best qualifying position. But interesting, his comments overnight in the official interview let us know that he really feels that the race is much calmer at the front, but impressed by the pace, of course, of the top 10 runners, and was happy with the safety car yesterday so he could have a bit of a breather, Matteo Nannini. But let's see how he gets on off the front row of the grid here. Certainly it's the place to be at the Circuit du Barcelona-Catalunya. Always difficult in terms of track position, always difficult to pass here. We have seen some lovely moves down the outside of turn 1. You have to be in absolutely the right place with the DRS to put yourself in the position to take the place from the driver ahead.
Confirmation of the championship standings on the left-hand side there. 125 points for Sargent. Another podium for him yesterday. 5 for the season so far with the 1 win. It's 4 podiums in the season for Oscar Piastri with the 1 win. 2 wins and 4 podiums for Liam Lawson just further back. On board with Sophia Flörsch. She's been very busy in various different categories all over Europe, and now she's going to go racing along with the 29 competitors here. And she will start at the back after a difficult day. Her teammate in the orange Campos there. Campos' home race, up in 3rd position. And none of the top 3 have ever won an FIA Formula 3 race. Looking to change that today.
This is a good opportunity. Certainly reasonable tyre deg for everyone yesterday. Should be a bit better this morning. And let's see what they've learned from the first race performance here. So many rookies this year in Formula 3, almost half the field, in fact over half the field, not competing in a previous season. So yeah, every 18
on the grid of rookie drivers.
Every race is an opportunity to learn, and race 2 certainly is the opportunity often for the rookies to take home the spoils.
So Viscal, who won this race 1 week ago, the second of the weekend, when he outdragged Lorim Zendelli to the line to win by a 1/10 of a second. Just going to see how many cars he can pick off, really. It's a hit and hope from the back of the field, and Vesti, these 2 teammates at the front of the order. Another driver who can just send it anytime he gets a half chance, doesn't really have to play the percentages. From the back row of the grid, they will line up, and it's time for the second race of the weekend. Then we'll get the green flag, we'll get the lights, and when they go out, we'll be underway for the second race of the Formula 3 weekend. Lights out, and a bit of wheel spin for the pole sitter to give an opportunity for Richard Verschoor to drive alongside at this stage, getting squeezed by Nannini, but he's got momentum. Can he get that inside line, or will the Italian driver hang on to first position? He will, into turn 1, trying to sweep around though. Brave stuff from Peroni, sent wide, but it's Alex Peroni with the race lead, up from 3rd to 1st. Nicely done there, but look at Oscar Piastri already trying to improve. There's a crash in the background further on. Novalak's trying to gather it together there, but it's Peroni, and look at Piastri making gains here. This is an incredible start to the race for the driver who started 5th and is now up into the race lead. What a dramatic start we have to this second race, with Oscar Piastri looking to hit back in his championship battle. That's a late lunge from Nannini to take 2nd place, and Peroni has been shuffled back from the lead. Now he's trying to claim 2nd, hanging on to 3rd. They're all over the road at the start of this one.
It was a great launch, and safety car. I presume we've had an incident towards the rear of the field.
Look, they're getting the message. That's Max Futrell involved down there, and frustration for Max Futrell, and a Trident involved as well down there. And that was, you saw the dust kicked up in the background, and we also had drivers wide through turn 3, but the safety car out for a crash in the opening few moments, and it's Ollie Caldwell as well caught up in that.
On the exit of turn 2. Let's have a look at that start again. Great getaway from Peroni that had nowhere to go. Nannini squeezing Verschoor onto the inside line. Piastri still, look how far Piastri is back at this point. Peroni very brave around the outside to take the line for turn 2. And let's see where this shunt is at the back of the field. Oh, just getting tangled up on the apex of turn 2.
So that was Hauger spinning round one of the Carlins and then avoiding action in the background at the end of the race for Futrell and Caldwell. Lots of speed for Teo Pourchaire, absolutely nowhere for him to go.
Everything crushes to the inside. Only Peroni brave enough to head round the outside, followed then by Piastri. Peroni, brave with the curve in turn 2, manages to hang on to it, and this is where Piastri makes gains. You'll see it from on board Piastri's car. A slight touch there, actually, wasn't there?
Look at the run he's going to get here. Look at the momentum he has.
And this is something you're just not going to be able to do later in the race. Track swept overnight. All those marbles go away. Piastri takes the outside around turn 3, then the inside around turn 4, and snatches first place from 5th on the grid. Here's Beckman.
This is Beckman up against Liam Lawson at turn number 5, and getting pushed wide onto the gravel to lose a position there. And this is when the safety car was deployed, so he's lost a position to the HWA ahead of Fittipaldi, and then that was the safety car being sprung on everyone, and Beckman having to take evasive action not to hit the back. Hauger was involved with that spin. I believe it was Pulcini from the angle that we saw, and he's damaged the front of the car. One of the many drivers we've had on a podium this year back in Budapest, but it's not his day today.
We talk so much about how turns 1 and 2 are a pinch point here. Everybody feels like they have one of those 2 corners in their favour. Everybody feels like they should be ahead heading into turn 3, and that's the result. Max Futrell and Ollie Caldwell could not decide who owned the road, and both therefore arrive in the gravel. Piastri is, though, who leads from 5th on the grid. Nannini P2, having started on reverse grid pole.
I wonder if they have to look at Clement Novalak getting past Beckman as well. The timing of the safety car, I think race control might have a look at in the battle for 9th position. The top 10 scoring points in this second race of the weekend as well. That's different to Formula 2, and that's different from last year's Formula 3 rules. But we talked about the championship for one contender, up 4 places, Oscar Piastri with his best opening lap of the year. He chases his second win, but Logan Sargent as well, making 3 places up from his grid spot.
All important for the championship contenders. Slightly less points, actually, though, for this race. 15 for the win of the reverse grid contest, on the basis of it being the reverse grid race. But still, every single point is important when we get to the end of the year, and the man in the position to steal back some advantage in the championship is Oscar Piastri at the moment. Sargent sitting down in 5th, so that's a decent swing. Seeing damage on one of the car ends. That's Pulcini.
Yeah, Leo Pulcini, he was the driver initially hit by Hauger, and then you saw behind Futrell in the Hi-Tech and Ollie Caldwell in the Trident, unable to avoid in the gravel trap, and that is why we have the safety car on lap 3. And sometimes racing is technical and complex, and sometimes you've got to get the duct tape out.
Now let's hear from Logan Sargent.
Hey, what's taking the marshal so long? Let's go.
Well,
that's a guy hyped up that he's made 3 places and wants to continue that momentum, and right now they do have the winch in place. This is the start then. Further down the field, watch the Red Bull liveried car on the inside of the curb. Round goes Pulcini, and then Futrell and Caldwell just trying to get up to speed in the race. Nothing they could do about that one. And Hauger, we see the aftermath of it. Hauger back to the pits, Pulcini back to the pits, and both of them out of the race. He's on board with Sophia Flörsch.
Actually climbs the curb on the left-hand side, doesn't he, Hauger? Slightly nudges the front across the road. 3 into 1 didn't go. Sophia Flörsch doing a good job of getting out of the way of that one.
So a brilliant opening lap of the race for Oscar Piastri, who toughed it out around a part of the racetrack that doesn't always have the grip, but kept his foot to the floor, had good momentum. And Nannini with a bold move as well into turn 5 to take back that place that he lost to Peroni.
Locking up the inside front, but still able to make the apex. Peroni did well, I think, also to see him coming on the inside. And
one of those where he was invited to have an accident and decided that he would wait for another day.
Nannini left it up to him, didn't he, really?
Yeah, he really did.
On the apex of T5. You can continue round the outside there, and there's also some curb to play with on the exit for both drivers, which I think Peroni used. But yeah, Nannini not taking any prisoners in his bid to take his first podium finish of the year. Logan Sargent, the man who wants things to get back up and running. There's a bit of a bank there, you can see it over the other side of the barrier, so it's actually quite a difficult place to recover a car because there's very little area behind to put it, let alone two, which is what I suspect is taking the marshals a bit of time on the exit of T2.
Going to help everyone with tyre deg, especially Logan Sargent yesterday. Same distance for the laps today, even though we do pay out fewer points. Let's hear from our winner yesterday.
But for sure, there was some questionable driving on that first lap that the stewards need to have a look though.
The beat was what we are looking currently.
So everybody just wants to push people wide. They don't care.
And that's Jake Hughes, taking his first win of the season yesterday, becoming our 8th different winner, and unimpressed with his rivals on the opening tour there.
Sunday morning drivers, eh? What are you going to do with them? And that's what you can say when you've won race 1. Jake Hughes down to 11th off the line, and did the job yesterday, and started obviously today from 10th place, but a little unhappy with the rough stuff down through turn 1 and 2. Obviously, in the second race here, there's no threat of being out of a race the next day, if you see what I mean, from having a bigger accident. They do tend to get a little rougher, in my experience.
And Logan Sargent saying that yesterday, really. He said, I'm not going to throw away big points. This was talking about battling for the lead and then second place. I'm not going to throw away big points. And tomorrow, emphasising your point there, Alex.
He damaged the chassis specifically, or a lot of the bodywork. Not to say that you won't make it out for race 2, but it might be a bit of a wounded soldier, your Dallara Formula 3 car. And any repair that you make aerodynamically to bodywork, to floors, has a negative effect on downforce, and therefore, especially at a circuit like this with such great sensitivity to downforce, a negative effect on your pace through race 2.
So the marshals recovering the high-tech car of Max Futrell at the bottom part of the circuit. At the top part of the circuit, they're sweeping at the top for the gravel brought onto the road. The safety car still out. The incident that led to the safety car investigated by race control.
So they're having to drag that car all the way back to the previous opening in the wall because there's nowhere to put it over the banking on turn 2. Gravel being swept back into the trap on the outside of turn 5.
So Piastri, who lost positions yesterday on a safety car restart, will be thinking about that at the moment. He was trying to pressure Liam Lawson, who went on to finish in second place. Piastri losing a couple of positions yesterday, losing a place to David Beckman and having to fight off Théo Pourchaire. This is the last lap behind the safety car.
Safety car in this lap. Hauger will be looking to rejoin the back of the pack, but is some way down now. 3 laps after that fix, so won't play any part in this one in terms of results. Good testing session for him, though.
Yeah, and has the investigation coming from race control. So, Mailander, he's going to bring the safety car back to the pits. And Oscar Piastri won't be taking the same risks over the curbs that he did yesterday that sent him wide and lost him a couple of places. He will take the place. But be aware that Nannini doesn't need to think about the championship at all. And we've already seen that he loves a late-braking move. Peroni having to get out of the way. Will Piastri face that? Let's find out. The Renault Junior driver is slowing the field down through the chicane. And we are back to green flag racing. You can't overtake before the start-finish line. Perfectly judged this time by Oscar Piastri, who leads over the line, looking to win for the first time since the opening race of the year. Feels the need to break the toe for the Genza ahead. The young Italian closing in. Will he have a chance? It's his straight line speed like good, but not enough to make the move. They're all in formation until you get to Liam Lawson, battling Théo Pourchaire in 6th place. Pourchaire hangs on to it for the time being.
Lawson, bit of a look down the inside. but thinks better of it. Nicely executed restart by Piastri. Really managed there what he was aiming at yesterday. He needs to be careful breaking the toe. We've already seen issues with that earlier in the year. Action further back.
Here's Doohan looking to the inside of Clement Novalak, and Novalak being forced wide. Who's going to win that battle then? Lockups ahead. It's Novalak with the inside line of 5. How brave is the young Australian feeling on the outside? And in the end, rather sensibly getting out of that one. It's Clement Novalak who won the battle for 11th for the time being.
Drivers really being able to hang it out round the outside of turn 4. Seen that all weekend. Nice clean braking zone into 5. Piastri making good his escape for now. He's got one more lap to break that 1 second barrier, but Nannini's under pressure.
He is. Pironi shaping for a move. Doesn't have the confidence on the brakes. Knows he's going to have potentially, on the evidence of this year, greater race pace. Let's hear from the race leader.
Quality lap now, quality lap.
Get out of DRS range and try and build the foundations for another race victory. Vesti has moved up to 21st position, the driver who started in 29th, so decent progress for him, considering we've barely had any green flag racing at all today. Back across the line with good momentum for Logan Sargent, it appears, chasing Richard Verschoor. And here we go. Fast lap of the race for Oscar Piastri, but good momentum for the championship leader. But he's racing with that championship in mind. He does have a contender close behind him as well if Liam Lawson can clear Théo Pourchaire. And next time around, DRS is going to be enabled.
I think what's going to help... Oh, let's have a look at this. And more curb riding further back down the field. Reminiscent of Oscar Piastri yesterday.
Yeah, it's exactly what he did yesterday, and exactly the same result as Dunne loses a position to Stanek, who got past for 18th.
Nannini still under a bit of pressure from Pironi, and Piastri out front having to really push hard to try to break that gap. Here's De Leda.
It's not been the easiest weekend for Alessio De Leda. In the gravel a couple of times, a spin as well, and he's back to the pits, and the Italian driver looks like his day is complete.
Bit of a learning experience this weekend, hasn't it, for De Leda? Strung out then, down to turn 10. Have seen some opportunistic moves down there, especially from our race leader, but nothing this time around. See how they came through. No, Nannini's just managed to keep him within DRS range. He won't get it down the front straight. The first time he'll get it is on the way down to T10. And let's see if he can do anything with it. He needs to carry good speed through the first sector. He's teetering on the edge of just being out of range here.
Not the fastest lap from Piastri, but he's not yet out of range. He's not yet out of DRS range for the blue Genza behind of Nannini. And Pironi unable to close the gap this time around. Sargent seems to have more pace than Richard Verschoor, but he will be waiting for the DRS to come into play. Doesn't want to have to risk that front wing at all. Back into the pits comes David Schumacher. The Charus driver looks like he is going to change the front nose there.
Little contact. It's a lot of concertinas around that final sector. Easy just to have the lightest contact for the front nose. When you're following, it becomes almost impossible to stay with the pack. Leave yourself open to more contact from behind. And you can just see how much they're all struggling following in the wheel tracks. Taking their time over this front nose, though, aren't they?
Well, the thing is, it's not as simple as a Formula 1 nose change. There aren't usually pit stops in Formula 3. And that's the moment where Schumacher ran into the back of Malvestiti ahead of him.
Pack racing, the accordion or concertina effect, just catching him out on the brakes there for the final chicane.
So Schumacher not having a simple campaign at the moment, yet to score points this year, has a personal best finish of 12th place scored in Austria. Meanwhile, out front, it is now over a second for Oscar Piastri, who has made good on the instruction from his engineer. Another fastest lap, and he's pulled out of the gap. He now needs to maintain that. Oscar Piastri, 1:36.0. It's very clear of DRS, which hurts not only Nannini trying to close in on his first win, but massively hurts him because Pironi's right behind within DRS range.
And Pironi's going to be putting pressure on Nannini, that's for sure, as the whole field comes up behind the back marker Schumacher. I presume that he'll be getting out of the way politely. But not a classic for this phase. Piastri has struggled with the tyre slightly through to the conclusion of some of the races this year. I think that's the main hope for the pursuing drivers.
We thought the same thing about Formula 2 yesterday, and you know how that ended, Alex. So give it time, give it time. Could yet come alive, this one. Lap 9 of 22, and Nannini on for a maiden podium in Formula 3. Peroni on for his third trip to the rostrum, and then Piastri on for a really good day in the championship. Logan Sargent will be trying to minimize the damage by getting past for 4th place at the moment. It's a 9-point swing coming Oscar Piastri's way in the championship in the standings to close the gap down. And of course, those 2 bonus points of fastest lap could be very handy indeed. Could be very, very tight in the championship standings if it finishes this way. Long way to go, though, around the 4.6 kilometers of this Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. And now a 1.5-second gap at the front. They are, I think, just considering the tyres a little bit more than yesterday, with that knowledge of 22 laps run around here.
The big loser at the moment is Beckman down in P9, who is hanging on by his fingernails to a championship challenge anyway. Only picking up a couple of points this one. They do get points down to P10 now, but with Piastri leading the race, Sargent up in the top 5, he'll be losing a little bit of ground.
DRS enabled for everyone out there, and who's going to be able to make use of it? Will it be Alex Peroni with that excellent haircut? But can he improve to 2nd place? That's his aim, that's what he's looking for. Would be a personal best in Formula 2 if he was able to do so. Both podium appearances this year have come in P3 and 1. He didn't even get to stand on the podium. It was after a penalty for Alex Smolia. So it would be his first return to the podium since our first race first round, I should say, at Silverstone.
Been strong all weekend with the high downforce hair, and we've seen a lot of good onboard stuff, haven't we, from Alex Peroni? And this will be the lap then. He's able to put pressure, hopefully, on Matteo Nannini down into turn 1. It's been this DRS detection point just before the exit of the final corner, and this DRS zone down into the first corner, which have been the action generators all weekend in Formula 3. Let's see what happens now.
There's a bit of grip around the outside. Peroni, though, favours the inside line, and he's going to breeze on by. If he can be late on the brakes, he can. Alex Peroni takes 2nd position, takes back the place he lost at turn 5 on the opening lap of the race, and he has 2.2 seconds between him and the race lead after a tidy move for 2nd.
Simple stuff from Peroni. Surprised Nannini didn't cut straight to the inside line there, and especially with how hard he's been racing all the way through the start of this one. But very neat and tidy move from Peroni, and up into 2nd place. Let's see what kind of pace he's got now to charge away from Nannini. Seeing it again, just cuts to the inside, telegraphs it relatively early, little squeeze in the braking zone, and takes the place.
So Piastri's done all of the hard work here. It will be really interesting to see, though, if Peroni in clear air can attack and close down that gap. Piastri's just responded last time around the last few sectors, though. Got the gap up to 2.6 seconds. Australian 1-2 at the moment, then Piastri ahead of Peroni, and then Nannini with a train of cars behind, including the points leader, Logan Sargent, a one-time race winner this year. It's his consistency that's taken him to the top of the page, and it's been super competitive. 8 different winners this year, and this is race 12 of the season.
Yep, fabulous. Competitive racing we've had all year in Formula 3, with now the championship challengers having to fight off those hungry just to take results away from these races. Jake Hughes, one such driver yesterday. Nannini and Peroni, 2 such drivers today. But being really well controlled at the front of the field from Piastri. This one, 2.8 seconds now the gap. And you must feel now that the really big battle towards the end of this race is going to be behind.
You see Sargent has the measure of Vershaw at the moment, but Sargent really struggled with the tyres in the latter phase of the race yesterday. Liam Lawson was the driver who was on top of that, and Lawson is just behind Théo Pourchaire at the moment. Pourchaire in 6th in the black and white car, and Lawson in the Red Bull liveried Hi-Tech in 7th at the moment.
Did see a couple of safety cars through the race yesterday, giving the tyres a bit of a break, so the level of deg might surprise a couple of drivers through to the end of the race without the tyres getting that rest. Equally though, safety cars can put a tyre through a heat cycle, so it's a bit of a curveball. Still a bit of a new adventure with regards to how much degradation there's going to be. Oscar Piastri charging away from the field.
So it was a good start reaction time wise for Richard Vershaw, the driver in 2nd position. Was covered off by Nannini though as they ran down to turn 1. Brave stuff from Pironi to go all the way around the outside and take the lead, but the concertina that caused gave an opportunity for Piastri, had great momentum, and he was able to take the lead by turn 4. Since then, he's been in control of things. The concertina that caused at the front led to a few contacts behind. Hauger into Pulcini, and Futrell and Caldwell were eliminated. We've also had to Leder retire from the race.
To stay close to the driver in front of you, otherwise you just lose that critical impetus in those first couple of laps. But it does leave you open to those tiny little nicks of front wing. Can puncture tyres, can damage carbon fibre. And you need the full performance of the car all the way through the event here. The pace is fast at the front. Nannini's super surprised by just how competitive everything was when he found himself up in the top 10 yesterday.
And he did well to hang on. He said it was the improved qualifying performance that set up his first points finish, and he is running assured right now in 3rd place, but the real task for him coming in the final stages of the race. How can he look after this Pirelli rubber as a rookie when he is surrounded with drivers with a year's experience ahead and behind immediately for the Italian?
Slight kicks of oversteer now out of the final chicane. See a little bit of work going through those rear tyres. If anybody's in the position to attack, I would say probably Logan Sargent sitting behind Vershaw at this stage. There we have on the graphic, just a bit quicker that time around. Looks like he's in DRS range.
Nini's done well to stay with Pironi in the battle for 2nd place, and I think Pironi probably is estimated that he can't catch Piastri at the front, so just looking after his tyres.
Often the way in these Formula 3 races, you see 36s from the lead of the field all the way down through to the mid-teens in terms of race pace. The qualifying pace sets the grid, and then once you get in the rhythm of the drivers around, you've got a bit of DRS to help you follow as well. It can be easier to hold the race pace, but Nannini on his way to his first podium.
And that's the progress so far for the Australian driver, managed by Mark Webber. And he's doing everything he needs to right now for a 2nd win of the year. Further back, though, good lap in response from Pironi, having fell into the clutches of Nannini. And picture-perfect stuff for our race leader at the moment. Has to deal with the back marker in a few moments' time. But they're all running thinking of the tyres at the moment, because he's not caught Schumacher as dramatically as we might expect. Reminds me of a GP3 race here a few years ago, where they were all told to run to time. They were all fearing massive tyre degradation, and they went down to the paddock afterwards and they were like, we had 50% left at the end. We saved too much. And they'd all been running around in formation, waiting for the drop-off that never came.
It's something which is really hard. Let's hear from Sargent.
Get ready to get the chance if we get it.
So Sargent being told to get on with it if he can. Meanwhile, Caleb Williams has improved to 16th place.
The issue they have are these long corners where you need the downforce load over the front wing. You just cannot follow. Oh, big old lockup for Nannini, though.
Nannini's been locking up almost every time he's been through turn 5. Doesn't seem to be affecting him too much. Could do at the end, though.
Just reliving his fabulous move at the beginning on Peroni, of course, to lose out eventually again. And yeah, it can hurt you that. Need that left front tyre all the way through the race. And the more you lock it up, the worse the performance is. Here we go then. A little more action through the mid-pack.
This is Vesti, and we've got a yellow flag out there. It's Vesti versus Viscal, and off goes Malvestiti to bring out the yellow flag. He's gone off the road down there at turn 5.
Looks like potentially a lock-up or some contact into turn 5 and safety car.
Full safety car deployed for that one then, and the Italian driver, originally from Monza, has found his way to the gravel trap. As we were just checking in on Ben Viscal and Frederic Vesti having a real scrap, only for 21st because of the way their weekends have gone, but they're racing, they're fighting. They were until the safety car was deployed. We're on lap 16 of 22, and the marshals already on site, so I don't think this safety car period is going to be as long as the one we saw earlier on. And not great for Oscar Piastri, though, because he had built an impressive 3.5 second lead.
Easier to take a car out of the gravel in turn 5, that's for certain. I'll be interested to find out what became of Malvestiti. But this gives those who've hung on to their tyres an opportunity towards the end of this race and closes up those gaps again. Switches off the DRS for a couple of laps, although we'll have time for that to be re-engaged. 16 laps completed, 22 total, 10 minutes to go, so we won't run to time on this one. Almost ran to time, didn't we, on the Formula 2 race yesterday, just because of the tyre deck here and the amount of time it was taking the drivers to complete just one lap with the degradation.
We had the full hour and a lap for the 3rd year in a row for Formula 2 yesterday, so it always seems to run long here at the Circuit Barcelona Catalunya. 10 minutes to go then. We're behind the safety car, a race that Piastri brilliantly took the lead in at the very start. Started 5th, ran 4th into the first corner, had a lot of momentum. As Nannini and Peroni battled, he swept around into the lead at turn number 4, and he has to deal now with an unexpected restart. Not the first one absolutely perfect. Now, as the safety car ending rather quickly, so punch the pace up, the pack up, and the pace will be controlled by Oscar Piastri, and he will have to do the hard work again of getting out of the DRS range. Peroni, who it looked like was settling for second place, now has a chance at his first Formula 3 victory in the orange car, directly behind our race leader, who's going to close in significantly in the championship if he can stay where he is. Can he stay there, though? Let's find out in the final stages of this second race of the weekend as we go back to racing conditions. The Renault Academy driver takes us across the line. Australian 1-2 at the moment. Peroni in the wheel tracks. How brave is he feeling down to turn number 1? He's gone with him right now, and you can see the front tyre for Piastri not in the best of conditions visually, and so Peroni will be closing in. How quickly can Piastri get out of DRS range and break that second gap?
Piastri played the restart exactly the same as he did the previous one. Peroni, of course, on a watching brief on both of those restarts. Oscar seems to get the tyre fired up quicker than his rivals. I think it's what benefited him right at the start of this race, and his pace through turn 3 there with the cold front tyres, incredibly impressive again. Just that little bit of a gap to get him out of pressure through the middle sector for Piastri.
That's Liam Lawson in 7th place, the driver who's gained a couple of positions here. You can see Fittipaldi in 8th position, who's had good pace at different stages so far, on for what would be just his 3rd point score of the year at the moment. And whilst everyone else is making progress, look at that entire chart, everyone making progress apart from Hughes, who is right where he started, in 10th place.
Still back where he started, unhappy earlier on about some of the driving standards, playing race director on the radio a little bit. Here's Piastri.
5 quali lap now, mate. 5 quali lap.
Quali lap the instruction again, as he tries to break clear. And it's been a great restart lap, you have to say. from Piastri, who is nearly a second clear. Can Peroni respond? 5 to go. No DRS at this point after the restart. Smolly is trying to line up Doohan for 12th position. I think he's managed to get past Doohan for 12th, further back in the pack. Meanwhile, everyone in the points, that's the top 10, hanging on. The white and black car there, you can see the Russian driver of Smolly getting past the HWA of Jack Doohan.
I would say Nannini probably even did a slightly better job of hanging on to Piastri in the first couple of laps when he was behind in the earlier stoppage. But someone wide off in the background, no change of position though. Peroni still 0.8 back, and there's still hope to pick up DRS when it is re-enabled. But we are very much line astern all the way through the pack. People being very well behaved in this second race of the weekend.
They really are. So right now, Oscar Piastri with 15 points for the win and 2 bonus points of fastest lap, having exactly the best day that he could have hoped for, which is going to close down that gap to Logan Sargent. Sargent's not been able to get a run on Richard Verschoor all race long. It's lap 18 of 22. Cameron Daff's thinking about the late move there. Igor Fraga, the Brazilian driver, directly behind, and no one really going aggressive at this stage. Will that change with the introduction of DRS? Oh, there we go. That's aggressive stuff there. We saw the ART in the gravel, and Fernandez just about able to keep it pointing in the right direction. Sorry for making you jump, Alex, with that moment.
I was just absolutely deep into the championship swing that would be occurring, of course, between Piastri and Sargent. Almost jumped out of my chair because of the gravel on the exit of turn 12. And let's have a look at it again. Just Fernandez using a little more track than there was track on the outside of T12.
Got away with it. Frustrating for the Spanish driver Fernandez. Started 5th yesterday, got the poor start, and his weekend is unravelled from there. Had good pace at various different stages, much like Fittipaldi has this year. Been unable to convert into a serious result though. 4-point scores this year, and he is looking to return to the points next time we run a race in a couple of weeks in Belgium. It's not going to be his day by the looks of things down there in 13th.
So this finish for Piastri won't be enough to swing the championship in his direction versus Logan Sargent, who's currently the leader, but certainly it brings him within striking distance in the final 3 events of the year.
Yeah, it takes him to within a point as things stand. So super tight, and exactly what he needed from this race.
Needed a better weekend after some issues at Silverstone.
He's done the job as well. He's got outside the DRS range. We were on board with Beckman a second ago. 3 to go. Peroni giving chase, but doesn't seem to have the pace at this stage.
Try to get closer.
Leave me alone.
That's terrific Kimi Raikkonen impression, that. Alex Peroni, terrific.
Deductive powers of his engineer, not unworthy of further development.
Doing on the defensive. And Caleb Williams trying to close in. 2 more Australians battling for position, this time further down the field for 14th.
Still battling all the way through the field. And he is getting closer, actually, slightly, Peroni, through the first sector. Taking a couple of tenths out of Piastri, pushing hard.
I mean, it is easier said than done. You have to say, assessing all of the 12 races that we've seen this year, the race pace of Oscar Piastri has been mighty. Hasn't had the 1-lap pace, but the race pace has been incredible. It's difficult to live with the Prema driver out front.
Seems to have sorted his issue he had very early on in the year with tyre degradation as well, doesn't he, Oscar? Still delivering about half a second quicker than Peroni that time round, losing out a bit in the first sector, taking it back in the middle. It's give and take between those two, but early on in the year we saw Piastri lose out with rear tyre degradation a lot. And let's have a look at Fernandez having another
excursion by the looks of things. More gravel, no, a little bit of air this time. Don't like to see that, but he's gone over the curb and avoided the gravel. He's still in the race. and I believe he's still in 13th position despite that moment at turn 9.
It's a bit high through turn 9. Very much a one-line area of the circuit. If you get too wide, you're out on the marbles. If you're out on the marbles, you're out on the curb. And there's enough room out there to scoop it up and bring it back normally. Not always, though. Nannini coming under slight pressure now from Verschoor, having dropped off the back of Peroni.
Yeah, Verschoor, who is one of the 15 drivers in the field to score a podium in FIA Formula 3, and not had the easiest run in the last couple of races, but Verschoor on his day, very talented indeed. This is further back. Frederik Vesti in 21st position, doing exactly what Fernandez did a few moments ago. Might have opened the door for Bent Fiscal, that.
There you go on the turn 9 curve. Manages to find the gravel that time. And we have seen gravel all over the exit curve of turn 9 on recent occasions. Here's some team radio.
So Piastri, Peroni, Nannini. Maybe we'll hear that team radio in a moment. Verschoor is the driver, I think, most likely to throw a move to the inside, chasing his second podium of the year. The driver's been very patient indeed. Will that patience run out on the last lap of the race? Here's Piastri.
Drive clean. Oscar, drive clean.
So it's gone from qualifying laps to drive clean because he's made it to the 22nd and final tour.
But great advice, good, concise, letting him know what he needs to do. I think he'll know the plan, Oscar Piastri. Break the DRS and then disappear, please. But letting him know when he needs to push and when he can get away with it. That's the difference between a driver who runs out of tyres towards the end of the race and a driver who can give this kind of commanding performance. Nannini with his favourite lockup on the apex of turn 5. Seems to have got away with it with regards to the left front tyre this morning, though.
Yeah, it looks fine, doesn't it? So Nannini has found a route through there that's dramatic for us, and that's worked for him. He's not too far away from a maiden podium here. And you can see how messy it is off the racing line after those moments for Frederik Vesti and Fernandez at turn 9. And that was the last real opportunity for Richard Verschoor, who got close, but not close enough.
Unless Nannini loses his concentration through turn 12, looks like he's going to be on his way to his first podium of the year here.
This is going to be a very happy podium indeed. What a performance from Oscar Piastri, who did all of the hard work in the first 4 turns of the race, and since then has controlled things brilliantly. His reward, his second win of the year. Oscar Piastri wins at Barcelona. It's a personal best in Formula 2 for Alex Peroni, and it's a maiden podium for Nannini in 3rd. It's a brilliant performance from him. Verschoor was 4th. Sargent was 5th, Pourchaire in 6th, Lawson 7th, Fittipaldi and Beckman Hughes the point scorers. Well done to Matteo Nannini in 3rd place, who had to work very hard to defend from Richard Verschoor has done it. But what a day in the championship. The momentum swings back and Oscar Piastri has taken those 15 points for the win.
Yippee! Well done, well done.
Cheers, boys.
Fabulous first lap. Screaming down the outside, then round the outside of T3 again, and muscled his way through on the inside of turn 4. 5th place on the grid. Must have been some kind of launch for Oscar Piastri.
He got himself into 4th at turn 1. Alex Peroni, his best result in Formula 3 for his 3rd podium of the year, and he had to keep a cool head after he was overtaken by Piastri and had to retake Nannini for that best ever result.
Yeah, did well at the start to see Nannini coming as well, keep the car in the race, keep his head screwed on, and then make the move later when he had the opportunity to do so. But what a first podium for Matteo Nannini.
The nephew of Alessandro Nannini has made his way to a podium on the Grand Prix weekend. And there are plenty of drivers in the field with surname pressure, but after the first points yesterday for Genza, it's a first podium of the season for the Swiss team today. Campos used to being up there with Alex Peroni this year. Let's hear from him.
Yeah, good race, good race. Shame about the first lap, but anyway.
It's a bit better than that.
It was. I guess that's the frustration of a driver who was in the lead at turn 2 and lost it by turn 4.
Yeah, good to see. Disappointed with second. You should always be disappointed with second as a race car driver, but I think he'll be happy when he gets up on Monday morning with a job well done, some points in the bag, and another trophy in the cabinet.
So here comes Oscar Piastri, part of the Renault Academy, and he's won in front of the team bosses, the Formula One team here, for the first time since the opening race of the year 7 weeks ago. It's a relentless run of races this year, and so if you lose form, you have to deal with going through a few issues. It was tough at Silverstone, but he has fought back in the best possible way here. And the man originally from Melbourne climbing out of the car as the winner after a very, very exciting first lap, and 21 laps afterwards that he controlled. He is going straight to his Prema team, and now he's a little bit more excited. Big hug from the personnel down there. And there's not many that work on these cars, so every single person you can see playing their part.
Limited personnel, of course. Number one, number two mechanic. Very tight group of people putting a Formula 3 challenge together. That just makes each individual more important to the driver. Got to work out how to make the people around you work for you. And Oscar Piastri looking to have a great relationship with the Prema team.
Campos on the podium at their home event. And there is Nannini. First points, and acquitted himself well, constantly locking up into turn 5, but it worked for him.
Managed to keep the tyres on it, managed to keep his head even through the final lap. Can be so difficult when you're heading into that final lap with your first podium ahead of you, but managed to keep his head down into turn 10 and came across the line P3 as a reward.
Yeah. Beating Verschoor by half a second. Let's show you the rest of the order then. With Piastri taking a big step forward with points in the championship alongside Pironi with his best ever result in the championship, and the same applies to Matteo Nannini on the podium for the first time with Jets. Then we had Richard Verschoor, Logan Sargent, Teo Pourchaire, Liam Lawson, Enzo Fittipaldi, and the last of the point scorers, Beckman and Hughes. There was Clement Novalak, Smolia. Fernandez had a couple of dramatic moments at the end there in 13th. Williams was 14th, then Jack Doohan in 15th, then Zendelli, Das, Fraga, Stanek and Ben Fiscal, who finally got past Frederick Vesti after he went wide at turn 9. Dunner in 22nd position, Flörsch 23rd, and then Pulcini spun at the start. There was contact and a new front wing for David Schumacher. Hauger was involved with the first lap drama as well, and the retirements, Malvestiti, Deleda, Futrell and Caldwell. It's podium time for the second edition that we have run this weekend. And at the start we said, can Oscar Piastri interrupt the momentum of Logan Sargent? He did more than that. He took victory. But first of all, a well-earned first podium in Formula 3 for Matteo Nannini. And the Italian driver has made it to the rostrum. Here is Alex Pironi, who I think is a little bit downbeat after losing the chance of the first F3 win, but he should be very pleased indeed with second. And here's the driver who commanded things with that route up the order in the Renault overalls. He's improved today to the top step of the podium, and he'll hear the Australian national anthem. Well, Piastri needed that one, but he got the job done, and he was on the charge from the earliest possible moment. Brilliant racecraft at the start to power through into the lead, and he raises the first position trophy. Prema always do a great job, the reigning team champions. They're in that position in the championship once again, and they have more than double the points of Trident, their nearest competitors. That's another one for the cabinet for Alex Peroni, his third one in Formula 3, but he's never had a second place trophy before. And Matteo Nannini already up to speed and spraying the champagne. Final thoughts, Alex Brundle?
Back to a 1-point gap at the head of the championship. Piastri delivered today, and he's delivering for us what will be a very, very close championship through the rest of the season in the final 3 rounds.
Well, it's been another incredible run of races. We have been richly entertained at Silverstone and now here in Spain. Thank you so much to the competitors in the field, and thanks for your company as well. As we come to the end of that run, we're going to have a week off, and then we'll come back in Belgium when FIA Formula 3 returns.
Sky Sports F1.